Welcome to the Shreveport Connection with Tommy. Okay, my report tonight will be on WWE, spoilers and results from Raw and the Internet, matches from the Raw brand of superstars. But first, WWE news. Alex Riley suffered some sort of injury, apparently a tendon, in his match with The Miz at last night's WWE Capital Punishment pay-per-view. There were concerns this morning that Riley had torn a tendon, but that's not confirmed yet, as he wrestled on Raw and didn't show any apparent injury at all. Riley's injury was a hot topic backstage last night at the pay-per-view because he's in the middle of a push. We should know more at tonight's Raw, and not much was said. And you can see a photo of it right here from WWE.com itself. As you see the arrow pointing to the underneath the elbow, well, it's probably underneath the arm pad or in the underarm section. Okay, back to the news. Speaking of injuries, another injury report is that Layla is reportedly will be out of action for another 8.5 months. WWE officials are hopeful that she will return back in time for WrestleMania 28. Kelly appeared at the Electronic Entertainment Expo in Los Angeles, California, and announced that the Playable Divas characters would be able to participate in the Elimination Chamber match in THQ's upcoming Suckyworth WWE 12 video game. WWE is now testing for synthetic marijuana, which will carry the same $2,500 fine if talent tests positive for the real thing, reports the Wrestling Observer. And if you go to the Wrestling Observer website, it will take you to F4Wonline.com. And some of their articles, you got to be a member and you got to pay for it. Why do that when you can catch my news here for free? Okay, current storyline with Tyson Kidd having a different manager on WWE Superstars every single week is being done to eventually get him back to the SmackDown roster as a top mid-carder, with the idea that he needs a mouthpiece to talk for him. Kidd's manager will likely end up being a new WWE diva, such as FCW Maxine, who was scheduled to come to SmackDown weeks back, but they held her debut off because they felt it wasn't the right time. This isn't confirmed, but it's possible Maxine will be Kidd's new manager. Like he needs one, because talent speaks for itself. Word now, believe it or not, last night's win at Capital Punishment over Rey Mysterio was CM Punk's first WWE pay-per-view win since April 25th, 2010 at the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. Speaking of Maxine, she had been the general manager down in FCW, but was recently relieved of her duties in the storylines. The return of the Raw Roulette is being advertised to take place next week on Raw at the Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. 2 episodes of Raw are being taped that night due to WWE's subsequent tour of Australia starting the next day. Advertised main event features John Cena and John Cena versus The Miz for the WWE Championship. Hold on to that, because didn't CM Punk earn it tonight on Raw, as he stipulated in the opening of Raw. Okay, a match pitting Gail Kim against Melina was taped at the First Marina Arena in Baltimore, Maryland, for this week's episode of Superstars. Zack Ryder beat Drew McIntyre in the dark match prior to tonight's Raw taping. As I'm reporting, there was 2 reports on this. And like I said, Gail Kim beat Melina in what may have been a dark match. So the people in the arena didn't know who or what was the dark match. Zack Ryder beat Drew McIntyre, of course. And the other match with tag team champions Michael McGillicuddy and David Otunga defeated Santino Marella and Vladimir Kozlov in a title match on Superstars. Raw from Baltimore Arrowhead kicks off. Now that you've all been waiting for, opening with a video. We go to Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler, who hyped tonight's Power to the People theme, as it's another 3-hour Raw. I only missed one prediction of the actual voting in the arena because of the fact that some of these matches wasn't even stated what to vote on and when unless you went to the WWE website itself, because it was a text-only event. Okay, here we go to the ring, and out comes CM Punk to kick off the show, and he sits down on the mat Indian style as the crowd boos him. Punk says he would never trust the fans with the content of tonight's program. Punk wonders what kind of bad decisions the fans will make tonight. Punk says he is the greatest wrestler in the world. He talks about beating Rey Mysterio at Capital Punishment and his recent win over John Cena. Punk says he is the #1 contender to the world title now, to the WWE title. This is not a debate. This is a fact, he says. He says wins and losses still matter. Punk says he wants a WWE title shot at Money in the Bank pay-per-view in his hometown of Chicago. Punk says he isn't leaving the ring until the general manager makes it official that he's the #1 contender. And earlier this week, he promised, and last week he promised a very important announcement. Later in the show, you will find out that that pay-per-view will be his very last time in WWE. And he's taking the title with him. Okay, email alert goes off at that point. Cole goes to making an announcement, but Punk cuts him off and mocks him. Jim says he will take Punk's demands into consideration, but right now he's asking him to leave the ring. Punk doesn't like this, but gets cut off by another email alert. The GM suggests that Punk leave the ring right now. Punk lays down and starts doing Snow Angels, as he even said he was going to do that. Then the GM chimes in again and says he was going to make Punk the #1 contender later tonight, but now that he's disrespected him, Punk has to earn it. And while anonymous GM announces Punk versus Del Rio is announced for tonight, with the winner being the new #1 contender. Well, it's a triple threat coming up very shortly. Punk says he's used to people making bad decisions around here, but Del Rio only has one fluke win over Big Show. And at that point, another GM announcement chimes in again, and adds Rey Mysterio to the match. It's going to be Punk versus Del Rio versus Mysterio for the #1 contendership, and that pisses Punk off. And then they cut to Cole hyping a WWE Divas title match with Brie Bella defending against the audience's choice of Kelly, Eve Torres, and Beth Phoenix. And they give text messaging instructions to vote. We see the Divas backstage after Lawler casts his vote on his phone, and he votes for Kelly. Time for the commercial break, and back from the break, you got your title match: Kelly versus Brie Bella. Back for commercial, and out come the Divas champion Brie Bella with her sister Nikki. We get a drum roll for who fans pick, and it's Kelly with 53%. Beth and Eve congratulate Kelly in the back, and out she comes for her title match. Bell rings and they lock up, going to the ropes. Brie mushes Kelly's face and flees from the ring. Kelly chases her outside the ring and gets distracted by Nikki. Upon re-entering, Brie knocks her off the apron and beats her around on the floor. Before bringing it back in, Bree works Kelly over in the corner and chokes her with her boot. Bree keeps choking Kelly on the ropes as Nikki cheers her on. 2 count for Kelly. Bree applies a modified chin lock now. Kelly makes it to her feet and fights out of the hold, but Bree sends her head into the mat and taunts her. Kelly fights out of another hold and sends Bree flying. Kelly kicks her leg out and starts slamming her head into the mat several times. Kelly with a fast press and punches. Kelly hits a bulldog on a 2 count. Bree counters and hits a neck breaker for a 2 count. Bree runs into a boot in the corner. And Kelly tries to roll her up from the corner. Bree falls on her for a 2 count. Kelly rolls her right up for the pin and a win, as it was a reversal schoolgirl roll up win for the title. So you now have a new Divas champion in Kelly Kelly. So that's 3 title changes in 2 days' time. Of course, from the pay-per-view, you had the U.S. Championship change, and you had the Intercontinental. Now you got the Divas Championship. After the match, Jerry Lawler gets in the ring to interview the new champion. Kelly thanks the fans for voting for her and says this shows the power of the people. Kelly's music hits as we go to replays. Get a promo video for Evan Bourne, who will be in action up next. Fans can now pick Bourne's opponent. We see the options backstage. Sin Cara, who might be on Raw now. Jack Swagger, and the other choice of Mason Ryan. Back to commercial, and the fans pick Mason Ryan. Back for commercial, and out comes Evan Bourne to the ring. Mason Ryan gets the vote with 51%. Out he comes to CM Punk's music, because he doesn't have any music of his own yet. And the fans were chanting, Batista, Batista, Batista. Bell rings and Bourne strikes first with kicks. Bourne ducks Ryan and slides between his legs, grabbing one leg, and Ryan knocks Bourne around into the corner. Ryan with a shoulder thrust now, and Bourne comes back with drop kicks, but Ryan clotheslines him hard to the mat. Ryan with a series of backbreakers and an overhead suplex. Mason kicks Bourne around and now and chokes him on the mat, on the ropes. Bourne fights his way in with kicks and punches. Bourne with a flying knee to the chin. In the corner, Mason lifts Bourne high in the air and slams him down to the mat. Mason then puts Bourne in the top turnbuckle and rocks him with a right hand. Bourne knocks Mason down with a right hand and goes for airborne. Bourne ends up landing on his feet and kicking Mason into the corner. Bourne rolls Mason up for a 2 count. Bourne goes back up top and comes down, but Mason catches him. Mason hits the big side slam for the pin and win. Kane versus Mark Henry is up next. The options for the fans to vote on are body slam match, arm wrestling match, or an over-the-top rope match. This is the only one that I missed. I didn't care about this match, because who cares about an arm wrestling match, because it's not wrestling. And an over-the-top rope match, well, they both could be thrown over at the same time. Therefore, no winner there. And the body slam match, who really cares on this match? Well, back for commercial, and we get footage of Mark Henry being stretched out on last week's SmackDown after Big Show attacked him. Out comes Henry to the ring. Now they show footage of Henry slamming Show through the table at Capital Punishment. Henry takes the mic and says that what happens when the world's largest athlete meets the world's strongest man? Someone gets punished. Just like his music says, someone's going to get their ass kicked. When you're dealing with the world's strongest man, Henry says. Then they cut to commercial as voting on the stipulation is still open. Back from a commercial, and there's an arm wrestling stand set up in the ring, so you already know what the match is. And there wasn't the voting for that wasn't even given. So what's the point of this match at all? They go to start the match. Henry backs off. Apparently he's afraid of Kane and his arm wrestling moves. They go to start the match, and Henry, like I said, Henry backs off. Finally lock arm again, and they go back and forth. Henry starts to lose, and knocks Kane in the head with a punch from the other hand. So Kane won by disqualification. Henry attacks Kane until Kane fights back and goes for a choke slam. Henry blocks it and clotheslines him. Henry picks up the arm wrestling stand and rams Kane with it. But he did not break, sending him out to the floor. Henry goes to the floor to continue the attack. Henry carries Kane over and slams him through the announcer's table as he took his time to disassemble it with all the monitors and the wires and yada yada yada. So he just picks him up about this high and drops him through the table. Okay, let's see. Henry starts running his mouth to the fans about how he's the best at whoever did it, and walks off. Then they show footage from last week where R-Truth and John Cena got into it. Toll says Truth is expected to join us next. Back to commercial. Back from the break, we get a promo for R-Truth and John Cena feud. R-Truth makes his way to the ring, and the crowd tells him he sucks. Truth mocks the fans and says he didn't think things out clearly at Capital Punishment. He thought maybe the GM's laptop might be out to get him. Then thought maybe John Cena was out to get him. Cena says he ended up getting okie dokie by little Jimmy. Truth says he got by little Jimmy, and that ain't funny. Truth says he knew it was a conspiracy. All the little Jimmys and big Jimmys are out to get him. Christian's music hits, and out he comes. He says he understands Truth. Yeah, he understands Truth, doll. Christian mocks the fans and talks about losing the world title again when he wasn't 100% because the fans thought he should face Randy Orton. Christian says he's had his setback since then, but it's not his fault. Christian blames bad crowds like the one here in Baltimore, he says. Christian also blames the referees and shows footage from Capital Punishment where his foot was clearly under the bottom rope even before Orton even got him for the pin. The referee saw it and then still didn't count. Still did the count after Randy Orton was pinning him. Well, that didn't do any good. And then it was Christian says he should be world champion tonight, and out he's demanding justice to be served tonight. Christian tells Truth he just needs one more time to be the world champion. Truth says he got one shot and was robbed by little Jimmy. Truth goes on and it gets interrupted by the Miz's music. Miz comes out to a nice reaction and says his gripes are legitimate. Miz talks about Riley beating him in Capital Punishment. Christian says that he and Truth were actually in title matches last night while Miz faced his apprentice. The crowd chants, "Awesome!" It sounds like. Truth, Christian, and Miz go back and forth with relays. Well, then they yell, Christian starts yelling Riley. Well, Miz then says Randy. And Jimmy at each other. Teddy Long's music hits and out he comes. Teddy tells them all to just shut up. Teddy tells the crowd we want to see them in action and make tonight the main event. R-Truth versus Chris. It's a tag team match, six-man action. R-Truth, Christian, and The Miz versus John Cena, Randy Orton, and A-Rod. Fans will get to pick what kind of match it is, but stipulations aren't announced yet. The heels look up to getting on the same page now, as we go to ringside. Michael Cole announces that Dolph Ziggler will be defending the U.S. title against Kofi Kingston, with the fans picking the stipulations, which I didn't see. Well, I think I did. Options to vote are 2 out of 3 falls. 2 out of 3 falls was the first one. Vicky Guerrero banned from ringside was number 2, or a submission match. Well, the last 2 didn't make any sense. I went with the 2 out of 3 falls, and that's what it was. Okay, back from the since I went to the break after that. While the voting was still going on, back from the break, and we're seeing steals for capital punishment. Well, Dolph won the United States title in the arena now. Vicky Guerrero comes out to the stage and introduces Dolph, and here he comes. Out next is the former champion Kofi Kingston. Stipulation will be 2 out of 3 falls match. Vicky leaves the ring to cheer on Dolph, and here we go. And she's saying, "Yay, I get to stay! Yay, I get to stay!" Who cares? Bell rings, and Kofi attacks with kicks, taking Dolph out to ringside. They bring it back in the ring, and Dolph tries to make a comeback. Kofi stops him and stomps away, sending Dolph back out to the floor. Kofi comes out and kicks Dolph in the gut and brings him back in the ring. Kofi with a 2 count. Kofi hits a suplex and gets another 2 count. Dolph with a right hand. And the start of a comeback. Kofi backslides Dolph for a 2 count. Kofi tackles Dolph and unloads with right hands. Dolph fights off Kofi and says Kofi charges. Kofi flies outside the ring as we go to commercial. Back from the break, and Dolph has a headlock applied. During the commercial, Dolph hit a zigzag on Kofi on the floor and got the first pinfall, but they did not show it. Well, since they came back, and Dolph hits a big drop kick and applies a hold of Kofi's arm. Kofi tries to fight back, but Dolph hits his leg drop for a close 2 count. Kofi blocks a move and hits the SOS on Dolph for pinfall, but to make it one-on-one. They both get up and go at it immediately. Dolph hits a neck breaker for a 2 count. Dolph keeps Kofi on the mat with another headlock. Kofi fights to his feet and out of the hole with right hands. Kofi catches a drop kick and catapults Dolph's face first into the turnbuckle. Kofi knocks Dolph down with big chops and a drop kick. Kofi leaps, but Dolph catches him. Kofi slides down for a roll up and ends up doing a leap and a stomp on Dolph for a 2 count. Dolph rolls Kofi up for another 2 count. More back and forth action. Kofi leaps and connects from the top. They go back to the floor. Kofi ends up hitting the Trouble in Paradise. Kofi brings it back in the ring, and Dolph kicks out at 2. Dolph ends up hitting Kofi with a microphone and gets disqualified. Thus, Kofi gets his pinfall number 2, but in a championship match, it's only pinfall and submission to gain the championship. So Dolph retains. Excuse me. Back for a commercial, and out comes Alberto Del Rio. He thinks back to what he did to Big Show and says it wasn't an accident, it was destiny. He says the victory at Capital Punishment was destiny also. Del Rio says he will destroy CM Punk and Rey Mysterio tonight, and that's also will be pure destiny. Voting is still open for the stipulation in this match. No DQ, falls count anywhere, or submission. Back to commercial. And I got this one right again. Back from commercial, and out comes Alberto Del Rio. He thinks back to what he did with Big Show and says, I think I already read that. Okay, back from commercial, out comes... Well, I repeated myself 2 or 3 times in this. Okay, alright, here we go. Number 1 contenders, Falls Count Anywhere match. Alberto Del Rio versus CM Punk versus Rey Mysterio. Back from the commercial. Del Rio waits in the ring as CM Punk makes his way out. Out next comes Rey Mysterio. The fans have picked the stipulation it will be Falls Count Anywhere match. Bell rings and Punk goes at it with Rey. Del Rio gets knocked over and Rey gets a 2 count on Punk. Rey rolls up Del Rio for a 2 count. Del Rio unloads on Rey with kicks. Rey ducks Del Rio and kicks him and Punk. Punk backdrops Del Rio onto the floor. Rey dropped Rey and got a 2 count. Punk and Rey go at it. Rey goes for a 619, but Del Rio comes in and clotheslines him. More back and forth. Punk powerbombs Del Rio from the apron to the floor and gets a 2 count outside the ring. Rey leads off the apron with a big plancha onto Punk for another 2 count on the floor. Then they cut to commercial. Back for the commercial. Rey takes Punk and Del Rio down. Punk catches Rey with a backbreaker, and so does Del Rio. Del Rio with a 2 count as Punk breaks a pin. Punk and Del Rio trade shots. Punk goes for the TTS, but Del Rio slides out and hits the arm breaker for a 2 count. Del Rio with a hard kick to the face and stomps to the head on Punk. Del Rio takes Punk to the corner and slams Rey's head into the corner. Rey blocks it and fights his way to the top rope. Rey throws Del Rio into the position for the 619. Punk tries to stop him, but Rey throws Punk into the ropes also. Punk catches the 619 and goes for the GTS. Del Rio stops it and goes for the arm breaker on Rey. Punk kicks Del Rio in the head for a 2 count. Rey breaks the pin. Punk takes Rey to the top rope for a superplex, but Del Rio interrupts him. Del Rio powerbombs Punk while Punk suplexes Rey back down to the ring. We get a pair of 2 counts. Del Rio complains to the referee, you need to be a little bit faster, ref. Del Rio charges Rey in the corner, but gets kicked. Del Rio blocks a bulldog from Rey and suplexes him for a 2 count. Punk goes to work on Del Rio now, and Del Rio with a spear in the corner on Punk. He goes for the spear, but Rey moves, and Del Rio flies out to the floor. Rey goes up top to splash onto to the floor, but Punk stops him and drops him on the turnbuckles. Punk charges in the corner, but Rey kicks him in the face. Rey with a senton onto Punk on the top rope, and then he runs through the ropes and dives out onto the floor on Del Rio. Rey goes up top and splashes on Punk for a 2 count. Rey goes for a springboard moonsault, but Punk moves. Punk goes to the top rope, but Rey stops him and fights him in the corner. Rey goes for a hurricanrana, but Punk holds on, and Rey hits the mat. Del Rio comes in with an arm breaker on Rey. Punk leaps onto them from the top and breaks it. Punk with a 2 count. Del Rio with a big kick to Punk's head in the corner. And Rey drops Del Rio for the 619 and nails it. Rey goes on top, hits a big splash on Del Rio, but Punk breaks the pin and throws Rey into the ring post. Punk covers Del Rio for the pin, the win, and the #1 contendership. Well, when Rey got thrown over from the pin, his shoulder hit the ring post and he fell out of the ring. So that could be a possible injury on him again. So your #1 contender is CM Punk, and his special announcement is coming up next. Okay, after the match, Punk acknowledged that his WWE contract ends on July 17th, the night of WWE's Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Punk says he will defeat Cena that night, and when he leaves WWE, he's taking the WWE title with him. That's his special announcement, like I said earlier. In my report before I did this. And up next is Cody Rhodes versus Daniel Bryan. Options for the fans to vote on this are brown bag match, a no count out match, or a collegiate rules match. Well, and the obvious choice was no count out. Back from the break, and Daniel Bryan waits in the ring as Cody makes his way out. Fans pick this one to be a no count out match. Bell rings and go at it. Bryan sends Cody outside early on, dives through the ropes onto him. They fight up the ramp and to the stage. Bryan with a suplex on the steel. Bryan with kicks to Cody's chest now. Cody runs back down to the ring and Bryan throws him in. Bryan hits a drop kick from the top rope for a 2 count. Cody finally makes a comeback, hits a springboard kick for a 2 count. Cody with more defense. Cody with more offense. Cody catapults Bryan into the corner and rolls him up for a 2 count. Bryan turns it right around on him and rolls him up for the win. After the match, Cody gets pissed and charges Bryan. Bryan throws him into the LaBelle lock. Well, this brings in Ted DiBiase running from the crowd. And attack Bryan. Cody joins him in for the double team. Cody lays Bryan out with a crossroads. Ted brings a brown paper bag in from a fan at ringside. And they put it on Bryan's head, and Rhodes and DiBiase leave Bryan laying in the ring with a bag on his head. Cole Fall leads us into a sneak peek at USA Network's new show, Suits. Cole starts dancing at ringside and reveals that one of the announcers will face off against Vicky Guerrero in a dance contest up next. And I never saw this on the WWE site. And to me and all the WWE universe, this was a waste of time. Stalling for about 7 or 8 minutes. And they come back from a commercial, and Matt Striker is in the ring with Vicky Guerrero. She will be competing in a dance competition. And she's up first. She actually doesn't do no dancing at all. Vicky takes the mic and talks about Dolph Ziggler winning the U.S. title last night. She says tonight, and she will win a dance-off. Vicky says that she has 15 years of dance training and is an expert at ballet, jazz, and exotic dancing. Okay. Her stage name used to be Peaches, so she wants to be called Peaches now. She says, to quote the famous Sable, "This is to all the men who came to see her and the women that want to be her." The music hits and Vicky starts grinding in the ring. Yeah, right. Vicky calls Striker over and starts flirting with him. And Matt's giving faces. Then Vicky plants a kiss on Striker and the music stops. So whatever dancing it was like 3 or 4 seconds. And the fans have picked Michael Cole to compete against Vicky Guerrero. Cole says to call him Michael Travolta as he takes his coat off and starts dancing. Before he even gets in the ring, he throws his coat down at the announcer table. Cole asks for everybody's attention and tells everyone to sit back and enjoy his perfection. Cole starts dancing and it's a sight to see. Cole does a worm and tries to do a spin-a-rooney. I call it the roll-a-rooney. I believe Jerry Lawler called it the cola-rooney. And then Cole asks Booker if he can dig that. And the music stops. Striker asks the fans who they liked more, and they boo both of them. But Cole gets some more cheers. Cole wins for getting the loudest boos. Cole celebrates in the corner. Vicky walks over and slaps him to the mat. She declares that she's the winner before leaving the ring and dancing her way up the ramp, which wasn't even shown on TV to me. Up next is John Cena, Randy Orton, and Alex Riley versus The Miz, R-Truth, and Christian. Stipulations are 1 fall to a finish, a 20-minute time limit, and an elimination match, as I picked the elimination match as they go to commercial. And the elimination match it is, R-Truth, Christian, and The Miz versus Randy Orton, John Cena, and Alex Riley. Back for commercial. Out first is R-Truth, talking to the little Jimmy chants. Christian is out last for his team, followed by Alex Riley. Oh, they didn't the Miz came out. Well, the Miz was out second. Back from break, and let's see. All right, here we go. Okay, back from commercial. Out comes R-Truth. The little Jimmy chants. Christian is out last for his team, followed by Alex Riley for first, as he doesn't even enter the ring yet, as he waits his tag team partners. World Heavyweight Champion Randy Orton is out next, and finally John Cena, the WWE Champion. To the loudest reaction of the evening, the fans have voted, and the one will be an elimination match with 79% of the vote as they go to commercial. As both teams get a game plan, and they huddle up. Back from the break, and Cena locks up with The Miz. Miz with a headlock, but Cena breaks out. They trade holds and headlocks. Cena takes Miz to the mat and into the corner. Cena runs the ropes and hits a bulldog. 2 count on The Miz. Cena tags in Orton, and they double team Miz. Orton with an uppercut and a kick to the head. Orton comes out of the corner with a clothesline and drops a big knee on Miz for a 2 count. Miz then kicks Orton in the head and drops him with a big boot. Miz stomps away on Orton and tags in Christian. Christian continues the assault on Orton. Orton fights back with right hands, but Christian hits a knee to the gut and gets a 2 count. Christian works over Orton in the corner, and Miz hits him with cheap shots, and as the referee is distracted, Christian stands on Orton in the corner and hits a neck breaker for a 2 count. Orton fights back, but Christian stops him and tags in R-Truth. Truth comes in to keep offense on Orton. Truth with a headlock on the mat. Orton finally fights out of it with a backdrop. Christian comes in and stops Orton from tagging. Christian goes for the kill switch, but Orton counters. Orton goes for the RKO, but Christian blocks it with an inverted DDT and gets a 2 count. Orton comes back with a scoop slam, finally tags in Alex Riley. Riley spears Christian and unloads with right hands. Riley with a forearm shot and a spine buster, which was perfect. Riley fights off Miz and Christian. Cena comes in to help Riley out. Referee is distracted by Cena, allowing Miz to lay out Riley with skull-crushing finale. Christian takes the advantage and pins Riley as Riley is eliminated first. Back from the break, and Miz pins Orton for a 2 count. Miz charges Orton, clotheslines him. Orton tags in Cena. Cena comes in with shoulder blocks on the Miz and the usual moves. Cena hits the 5-knuckle shuffle to some boos from the fans. Cena goes for the attitude adjustment, but Miz slides out. Hits him with a neck breaker for a 2 count. Miz with big running clothesline in the corner on Cena. Miz goes to the top and comes down. Cena catches him in the SCF, but Truth breaks it. The referee is distracted, allowing Christian to beat on Cena. Chokes Cena on the ropes and distracts the referee, allowing Truth to get a cheap shot. Christian is tagged in to continue the attack on Cena. Cena fights free from Christian, but gets dropped with a back elbow. 2 count by Christian. Christian stands on Cena and tags in Truth. Truth mocks Cena and hits him with a right hand, and then a suplex, dropping Cena on his face with 2 count for Truth. Cena fights back with a suplex of his own now, and both go down. Cena kicks Truth off, but Truth tags in Miz. Miz kicks Cena in the face and readies for his finisher. Miz goes for the skull-crushing finale But Cena counters with the attitude adjustment. Cena fights Christian off. Hits the attitude adjustment on the Miz for the pin, as the Miz is now eliminated. Truth comes right in immediately and goes to work on Cena. Cena fights back with a backdrop, but Truth tags in Christian. Cena goes for the attitude adjustment on Christian, but he blocks it. Drops Cena with an inverted DDT. Christian goes to the top rope, but it's no good. Orton and Truth are tagged in at the same time. Orton with a scoop slam. Orton DDT Truth from the second rope. Christian comes in for a kill switch on Orton, but he blocks it and sends him out of the ring. Truth goes for a scissor kick on Orton. Orton blocks it and lays him out with the RKO for the pin. R-Truth is eliminated. Christian runs right in and spears Orton for the pin. Randy Orton is eliminated, but still stays in the ring. Cena goes for the attitude adjustment, but it's blocked. Orton runs back in the ring and RKO's Christian while referee's back is turned. Well, Cena went for the attitude adjustment. Well, R-Truth made it to the ropes, which bounced off, and when he came off, RKO by Orton. And that helps Cena applies the STF on Christian and makes the tap out for the win. So your winners are John Cena, Randy Orton, and Alex Wiley at 4 minutes past 10 o'clock. And that was basically the end of the show. But they panned to John Cena going to the ringside to take pictures with some of the ring-sided soldiers. Orton Cena celebrating the ring as they go to replays. Cena goes to ringside to pose with some of the troops. Raw goes off the air with the WWE Champion and World Heavyweight Champion celebrating. As they cut it when Cena was posing for some digital pictures from the crowd. And that ends your Monday Night Raw 3-hour Gilligan's Island tour.